All right, y'all, welcome to the video. I got something different for y'all today. I just saw this like literally this came out 11 hours ago and it reminded me I had been talking about this, but I never posted anything about it to YouTube. So I really want to see what y'all think. Drop a follow to the Twitch. We're live right now. I'll still be live when this is posted. Y'all can come in, let me know what y'all think, or drop it in the comments. So how many of y'all have heard the theory that Drake allegedly has something to do with XXX Tentacion's murder? Have y'all heard that theory? I've heard that theory before, and at first I was like, yeah, but then I was like, I didn't see anything happen. But months ago, a judge had called Drake to the stand to do like a deposition or some type of testimony. Because this guy is actually ex-lawyer. And I was just watching it, so I'm gonna run it back a little bit so y'all can kind of hear the context. Um, I listened to the part that wasn't really relevant. This is the part where they're talking about Drake, okay? To sum up what they said before this, the guys who got convicted of the murder basically challenged, the ruling, and they are trying to appeal the case, right? Because this judge, ex judge, or not his judge, but his lawyer, tried to present Drake as an option for questioning. And at first, the judge called Drake to like testify, and Drake basically got a lawyer to get him out of having to testify, right? So he never ended up having to show up. But y'all, there is multiple lyrics. Like I remember, it's multiple things, y'all. Remember, right before X died, he had posted on Instagram, "Hey, if anybody tries to kill me, it was Champagne Poppy at Champagne Poppy." Y'all know that's Drake's name, right? On Instagram. That was weird. We know they had a beef. We know X was trolling Drake's mom. There was some other little stuff going on. Y'all remember that line Drake had in that song? He was like, I'm in the mob and I got ties. Da, 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 right? And he said, Louis bags in exchange for body bags. Y'all remember that? And remember, X died and they snatched his Louis bag. Coincidence? Y'all know if Drake get into something, he can't shut his damn mouth. So I'm just like, But y'all know what really sold it for me outside of the lyric? And then there's that other song he has where he's like, shot him in daylight, shot him in daylight. That's weird. But the part that really sold it for me, I'm gonna see if I can find it for y'all on the side while y'all listen to them talk about this. But there was a lookalike of XXX in the, what was it, Sicko Mode video with Travis Scott. It was so random. And I saw someone post it on Twitter. I'm gonna find it for y'all so y'all can look yourself. But if y'all remember, X hair was black, half blonde at a certain point. But before he died, he had changed it to like gray, right? And his locks was sitting on top of his head. There is a lookalike in the Sicko Mode video in a random, like 1 second freeze frame that got crushed by this giant rock, right? It literally looked like X and it got crushed with a rock. That was the part where I was like, whoa. Okay, at first I was thinking it, but now that was just too random, chat. Why would they have that? Okay, listen to what the lawyers say, and then I'm gonna find that clip for y'all, and y'all let me know what y'all think. We are definitely in tinfoil hat mode, so obviously this is speculation. We don't know for sure, but I did think it was interesting that the lawyer tried to get Drake there and he got out of having to come to court. Check out what they're saying, y'all.
Potential leads that law enforcement really didn't look at into this case. So again, what are exactly we suggesting? Are you suggesting that Drake had a part in it, or that just it wasn't looked into and it shows a sloppy investigation and not a fair trial?
Well, in the brief and in what I was arguing in court is the latter. We are a defendant has every right to defend himself and to show reasonable doubt wherever it may be, and to fully investigate and articulate to a jury an alternate shooter defense or an alternate, a defense where someone else, committed this crime. Am I going to sit here and tell you
Look,
that?
y'all, here it go right here. Look at this, y'all. Come on, chat. Look at this. Look, I know you gotta zoom, but y'all, the frame was so quick that it just felt like a subtle message, bro. Look at this. Okay, this is literally like 1 second in the Sicko Mode video. Why would it be a random X lookalike getting crushed by a boulder? Okay, look at the hair. You see how the hair is on top? Is it gray? I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I just thought that was crazy.
That Drake was holding a gun or Drake, but the facts as they are stated by X's own mother, is that she knew about the beef with Drake and with Migos. She knew about the violence between Migos and her son, where there was a violent episode.
Wait, there is a beef with Migos? When do you have a beef with Migos?
She knew about 600 Breezy, which is a known admitted gang member from Chicago going to South Florida, and January, February, even February 7th of 2023, the judge is agreeing with me. Okay, now there comes a moment and a hearing. He goes ahead and Drake hires after the judge enters a rule to show cause, basically saying a purge date. You have to appear for depo on this day, or I'm going to do a writ of bodily attachment. He then goes and hires Brad Cohen, a friend
What
of the
does that
show.
mean? He said rule to bodily attachment. What does that mean?
Well, an excellent attorney, and Brad files several motion to quash the subpoena, and he files a motion for protective order. We go back and forth, and the judge says,
Oh,
in the first,
maybe he said writ to bodily attachment. A writ of body attachment is a court order that directs law enforcement to arrest and bring a person to court for failing to appear in court or for being in civil contempt. Oh, so he basically said, Drake, you gotta show up or you getting arrested. Damn, bro, when you got money, you can get out of anything. Ain't no way a regular average Joe was be able to get out of that.
time that Brad shows up to court, he says, you know what, I'm gonna quash the rule to show cause. He's hired counsel. You guys can communicate and figure out when this step was gonna happen. Okay, so we go back and forth. We can't agree to it for various reasons, and I'm not gonna get into settlement negotiations
Sure.
on the show, but we can't agree. We go into court February 24th, I believe, on his motions. At that time, James Beard, which is the process server that served Drake, appeared as a witness, and I wanted to show video that he took of the actual attempted service, where it shows Drake's bodyguards or the people that are in front of his house refusing to cooperate. It showed one of Drake's employees kicking the subpoena down the road that leads to his mansion.
Oh, so he's saying he tried to serve Drake papers, or somebody tried to serve Drake papers, and they basically weren't cooperating. Shocker.
And the judge didn't allow me to show that. Despite
Wow.
not allowing me to put forth that evidence,
That's
the
suspicious.
judge did a 180 from telling me to figure it out, coordinate it, take the depo, did a 180, told me, why are you involving him? Granted the motion for protective order.
Come on, chat. That's weird. So he's saying at first the judge was agreeing based on the evidence he presented that Drake needed to be there and even basically order him to come to court. Drake gets a lawyer. Then he says, oh, it's in your hands. And then he completely flips and goes against everything he initially said. Chat. I'm not going to say that the judge was paid. I'm just going to say that's very suspicious to do a complete 180 and go against everything you said and then get on Drake's side, and then all of a sudden you go from, oh yeah, you should bring him to court, and then if he doesn't come to court, we're going to arrest him. You go from that to, why are you bringing Drake up? Why are you involving him? That's weird to even say as a judge. Why are you involving a potential defendant when the victim literally mentioned this person as someone that was going to kill them before they died? That's wild. That's malpractice. Chat, you can't tell me that this judge wasn't paid off. You can't tell me that, bro.
Did a 180, told me, why are you involving him? Granted the motion for protective order. Granted the motion to quash my subpoena. Allowed Mr. Cohen to argue California law without having a California expert there, and basically kind of chastised me about, why are you bringing them into it? And as a matter of fact, we had taken the deposition of one of X's relatives regarding this beef, and she denied it. And the court said in open court, even his relatives said that it didn't exist, and I said, yeah, well, she's lying because the whole world knows about this beef. So for her to sit here and say that she didn't know about it
That doesn't mean
it's on
anything.
her credibility.
Wait, so they let the judge let the credibility of there being a Drake and X beef hinge on one person because she said she didn't know about it? That doesn't mean that it didn't exist. That means she didn't know about it.
So despite all of this, he does a 180. He not only grants the motion for protective order, basically saying that I can now serve him again,
Okay.
and it quashes the subpoena. But the state attorney, sensing there's blood in the water, says, Judge, I'm going to renew my motion to strike all his witnesses. Okay?
What?
Or tennis, no notice. And he says, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to strike Mr. Graham. So
What's that
he
mean?
struck in the middle of the trial.
That mean he can't
struck
use him?
Drake from my witness list, which is completely
What?
inappropriate considering the history of the
How?
case.
Talk to me real quick about why you think the
What?
judge did.
Chat, I didn't even know you could do that. So a judge can completely take someone off your list as a witness? I mean, to be clear, I know rich people can get away with anything, and I know how corrupt the system is, right? But to do it so brazenly and like in your face is kind of crazy.
This because in the appellate brief, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is an accusation that the court might have been biased because of Drake's celebrity status. Correct me if that allegation is wrong. And in your opinion, why do you believe the court ultimately wouldn't allow the deposition of Drake?
I'll say that Judge Usong was a complete gentleman to me, and it was a pleasure to try the case in front of him. I do think that he made various reversible errors, and I think from the beginning he made a lot of calls that were unconstitutional, not legal. This being one of them. I don't want to speculate as to why, but when you're dealing with someone like Drake, which he's not a celebrity, he's a super celebrity. He's like in the stratosphere of fame. So when a judge does a 180 like that, I'll let the viewers or other people.
He basically saying it without saying it, chat. He's saying it without saying it. He can't say it because he's a judge and then he's a lawyer himself. The other guy's a judge. So he doesn't want to necessarily, because you know how people will gaslight if they're in their profession. Oh, how dare you accuse me of not doing my job? We know y'all be corrupt. Let's keep it a buck. We know y'all get paid under the table. We know y'all rake stuff. We know y'all let rich people off or influential people off because they'll promise you a job or opportunity, or I'll let you work on the board of my company, or I'll get your son a job. They do all types of quid pro quo, this for that type stuff. So you're not fooling me. But like he said, he gonna leave it up to the viewers in the audience. Well, I'm the viewers in the audience, and I'm telling y'all that judge definitely got paid off. There's no way you do a 180. You go from legally understanding and agreeing with this lawyer to all of a sudden, oh, why are you including him in the case? That's so suspicious, chat. That's so. And then you completely take Drake off as a witness. Completely. Not even as a suspect, as a witness. You won't even let him come in as a witness. That's wild, bro. But you know what? I gotta bring up. Do y'all think it's a coincidence that this is happening after Drake starts to go after UMG? Let's keep it a buck. Just think about it, chat. We full blown tinfoil hat mode. Fuck it, let's go all the way down. Let's go down this road. Think about it. UMG had an incentive to protect him because he's their biggest asset. When did this happen? 2019. Around Drake's prime and his peak still, right? After Scorpion, right? Think about that. Isn't that wild, chat? Isn't that crazy that it's like he was protected from having to even be around this? And all of a sudden, now that Drake's going after UMG, who is the most powerful music entity in the world, now we're hearing, oh yeah, he's appealing his case. Now we're getting this video of this lawyer publicly coming out. I don't know, chat. The timing is, chat, that preemptive legal action petition / lawsuit thing that Drake did was like 3 days ago. And all of a sudden, now we're hearing about this. Y'all, this has been going on. I saw the story months ago where it was like, oh yeah, Judge grants the lawyer a date for Drake to come into court. And then the next thing I see, oh, Drake doesn't have to come into court. But that was real on the low. A lot of people didn't see that. But now, think about the timing and how Drake's in the circulations chat. Something fishy. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying it seemed like somebody was covering his ass. And now, people that's covering his ass, mad. You feel what I'm saying, chat? Just peep the timing, bro. It's crazy. Hold on, let's keep going.
People figure out why they think that it happened, but I'm not gonna speculate as to why it happened. But
no, I get that. I get that. I do want to ask you about this because this is another part of the appeal, and that is with respect to the testimony of this gang expert, which was excluded in a pretrial hearing.
Expert.
And the defense, my understanding, wanted to call Jesse De La Cruz, who they had claimed, discovered visual evidence that Drake could have had ties to the same organization as a co-defendant in this case, Robert Allen. And I believe the brief states, Dr. Cruz's research revealed photos of Mr. Graham throwing the same gang signs as Allen. And Allen is that accomplice who I mentioned before who testified against his co-defendants. But Cruz also revealed that people who knew Drake...
What Meg say? Posted in another nigga hood like a bad bitch. Hey, Meg don't get her credit for being one of the first people to really call Drake out in the song directly. Ain't that crazy though? What? So they're saying the guy that had evidence of Drake throwing up the same gang sign as the dude that got convicted for the murder wasn't allowed to show his evidence? Bro, this is not a real court. This is not a real court.
Against his co-defendants, but Cruz also revealed that people who knew Drake were allegedly seen in XXXTentacion's neighborhood threatening him before he died. The brief reads, social media posts showed these same known Graham associates were seen in Onfroy's neighborhood threatening him just prior to the murder. And then they say even more revealing is this connection that Cruz made to Drake's song lyrics, because shortly after
the lyrics, they gonna bring it up.
Was killed, the brief writes, Mr. Graham released a song entitled Triple...
I forgot about this lyric, chat. I knew it was one word, but I was like, I think I got the main ones. No, y'all. The one where he said, SMX, triple X. That's the only time I shoot below the neck. XXX. XXXTentacion. XXX. Triple X is also the word that's like undercover for like corn. You feel what I'm saying? So, it's a double entendre, but he's like giving himself plausible deniability, right? He's gonna be like, oh, well, I was talking about XXX as in like adult content, right? But triple X, come on, y'all.
Triple X with suspicious lyrics. SMS, triple X, that's the only time I shot below the neck. And Dr. Cruz found another connection between the murder and Drake's lyrics in the song I'm Upset. The song I'm Upset contains lyrics regarding Louis bags for body bags.
Louis bags in exchange for body bags. Come on, chat. They took X Louis bag when they killed him. X ended up in a body bag. Come on, chat. It's like, how do you have something that obvious? And then the triple X line. Come on, chat. It's too many. It's too many. There's no way he didn't have something to do with it, chat. Because it's like, every time Drake gets people to do stuff for him, he brags about in the song. And I think this is just like all the other stuff. He brags about with his friends doing stuff and going to jail for this and that, and he bragging about in the song.
The implication there being that Drake was referencing murder, but ultimately Cruz was completely excluded from the trial, and the jury did not hear any of his findings. Mauricio, I have that right.
How did he get excluded?
Can you emphasize that a little bit more? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes. Okay. So Dr. De La Cruz did proffer to the court everything that you've stated regarding the song lyrics, the fact that Drake was throwing gang signs that were the same gang signs that Allen was throwing up in different social media posts. The court strikes Dr. De La Cruz, which is a known gang expert and well known in his field, has testified over 150 times in trials. they allowed the state to put their own gang expert, Detective Polo, which really bolstered a lot of what Dr. De La Cruz said regarding the necessity to bring out this testimony. I don't believe that it, based on Daubert, which is the case that we look at when analyzing whether an expert is if it's appropriate for an expert to testify. I don't believe that that was a legal call. I think it was error for him to do that and not allow us to put forth that testimony. And we put up pictures of Drake with Lil Wayne throwing up a Bloods gang sign and other evidence that Drake is out there flaunting gang ties. We put forth evidence of Hassan Ali, which is top 5 out there openly claiming on social media and video that he's Drake's shooter. And part of the theory of defense is to show, listen, even though these people are entertainers, okay, there's a gang related portion of it. There's a gang related side to it. And X's own mother testified that she knew about this, that she knew about when 600 Breezy traveled from wherever he was, whether it's Chicago to South Florida. She knew about it. She talked to him about it. So this case had more than ample evidence and ample reason to involve a gang expert.
To be clear, though, you were allowed to argue that someone else could have been responsible for this killing because you cross-examined Allen on cross-examination, suggesting that he had this link to Drake. But my understanding is you're arguing now that the trial court had put limits on your cross-examination of Allen, that violated your client's rights. Am I misunderstanding that?
No, you're 100% correct. And they did it not only with Allen, but they did it all throughout the trial. Okay. With Allen admitted that his father, known drug dealer, known firearms dealer, as the brief states, produced at least one of the guns that was used in this. When I asked him about his father and ties to Toronto and drug dealing, the state objected, and the judge didn't allow that question.
What?
So it was a constant battle for me to try.
What? So we can't even ask? I thought the whole point in cross-examination was to let the other person ask questions. So what, you could just block the questions as a judge? I know you can like object or like overrule or whatever the hell, but it's like they made it so obvious that they're protecting Drake. You didn't even let the man answer. Let's see what he said.
Try and basically do my job and show where reasonable doubt existed. With Allen, with Detective Curcio, the problem here is also that the state attorney, on direct of Detective Curcio, which was the lead detective in the case, she asked, do you have any information that Drake was involved in this? And that was before the court struck him. So whatever the reasons may have existed, the moment that the state attorney opens up their mouth and says that, now he's really at issue, because now
you're opening the door. You're opening the door to that coming in.
Yes. And not only was it an issue of her mentioning it with Detective Curcio, but she asked him, you actually were able to verify whether or not Drake was in South Florida at the time. So in cross-examination, I asked, why would you have to verify if he was in South Florida? Why? Because he's a person of interest. And then I had to further ask, well, what did you do to, and I'm paraphrasing, what did you do to figure out whether he was in South Florida? He says, oh, my partner checked social media. So then I said, okay, so in a homicide case, the best that Broward Sheriff's Office has for a jury is to peep his Instagram. So it was basically breaking down the poor job that BSO did in their investigation and the tunnel vision that they had, and the fact that none of this was in the report. So you felt it important enough to check and verify whether or not he was in South Florida, but you never memorialized it in your report, and I'm not allowed to ask about it.
Well, he also testified, Detective Curcio, that he learned that Onfroy...
Right, I get what he's saying. Because he's like, how is the state going to bring up the fact that they looked into whether or not Drake was there around the time of the murder? But then he can't ask questions to other people about Drake in the cross-examination. That's wild.
Had been attacked by members of Migos, right? Migos is the rap group that's associated with Drake.
Was cool with Migos.
That came in, and again, you weren't able to expand upon that?
Not only did that come in, but when I asked him in cross-examination, isn't it true that the first time that the name Migos comes out in this case was a month after the murder in the first conversation that you yourself had with the cooperating co-defendant Allen? He didn't remember. I had to refresh his recollection, and right there in the transcribed conversation, it basically showed that Allen, the cooperator, said the name Migos in the first conversation that they had. So it basically showed that I wasn't making this up. Like, it's not,
Right.
I'm not creating
He said
it.
there's
The
a beef
facts
with
were
Migos
there
and Drake.
before I even ever alleged their involvement or filed a motion in court. They're
I ain't gonna lie, you making
they're
a good
checking to
case.
see whether or not Drake is in South Florida. That was years before I mentioned it. And Allen is saying is talking about Migos to the lead detective a month after the murder. This is years before I filed anything regarding my theory of defense. So it was just to show that this is part of the case.
Right. And the argument is that your client didn't get a fair shake, didn't get a fair trial because you couldn't expand upon this and introduce this. I want to move quickly past Drake and ask you a couple different questions about this appeal. Speaking about Detective Curcio, I understand that there's also an objection that your team has with him providing opinion testimony on cell phone data. Can you talk about that real quick, what the issue was with Detective Curcio there?
Okay, well, the issue is that Broward County did not list a forensic expert, okay? And they tried to put forth expert testimony through someone by the name of Campani and through Detective Curcio, and the court allowed them.
How do you not have a forensic expert in a murder trial? Chat, it's just too much fishy stuff going on with this case.
Campani and through Detective Curcio, and the court allowed them to give expert opinion as to locations of cell phones and things that are specifically left to experts, because when you list somebody as an expert, then that opens up the doors to discovery that we can take depositions of them and put us on notice to the specific details that they're going to testify to as an expert. That didn't happen in this case. And what they allowed was this individual named Campani. They allowed him to basically put forth expert testimony, and he put forth like a visual aid that he had prepared a week prior to his testimony. Okay, we were ambushed with it, and there he basically put little dots where he testified where the cell phones were exactly, and they allowed Detective Curcio to also give that type of testimony. Now, Detective Curcio is extremely experienced. I'm not going to take that away from him, and this individual Campani as well. But just because you're experienced doesn't take away the obligation of Broward County to do things correctly. This is a murder case, and a high-profile one at that.
There's a number of different other points that are raised.
Sets a bad precedent.
There's things like
essentially saying, like, if you have enough money, you can get away with it. And isn't that crazy how in Young Thug's trial, like with the Rico, they used lyrics from his song against him, right? And in this one, when the guy tried to bring the lyrics up, they basically tried to dismiss him.
Prior bad acts to come into this trial, allowing an out-of-court statement from defendant Newsom, which you argue was his Williams defense attorneys are saying was prejudicial. If you can, what's another big area of appeal? Is it any of those two that you really think could be problematic? Why your client? Again, I guess the idea is he deserves a new trial, right?
Yes. Yes. And the two things that you mentioned are pretty egregious. The one of the Newsom is really shocking. Like, they basically on redirect of Detective Curcio asked them questions and brought in a hearsay statement regarding a completely separate murder investigation that he says that he found without authenticating the cell phone, and basically said that Newsom had told somebody in some dating app or something that he had buried money in his house. And so the judge buried money, he could be catching life, and a really incriminating statement. But Detective Curcio didn't have to authenticate that. They didn't have to show what cell phone it came from. Basically, he just said, I saw this in another case. And the problem is that my client is sitting at the same table with this individual that now the court has allowed this extremely prejudicial information to come in. So that was a humongous reversible error in my opinion, that affected not only my client's case but everybody that was sitting there at table, including all the co-defendants.
Moving forward, though, what can we expect in terms of a timeline of appeal? When will this be heard? When will this be decided? If a new trial is granted, how does that work? Because now it's about the timeline of events. What should we expect?
You know what? I don't practice appellate law, and those are questions that I don't really want to give misleading answers to.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't want to give the wrong answers regarding appellate. I don't really do appellate law.
Real expert.
But at some point they're going to file
expert gonna let you know when they don't know what they're
brief,
talking about.
And I think that the court could invite. I think the way it is nowadays, the court can invite oral argument. When I first started practicing law, you had the right to give oral argument. I think now it's only by invitation when the appellate court wants to hear your arguments. But yeah, I mean, listen, when I read this, this was an 11-week trial. The jury was out 8 days. It's not like if the jury didn't think about it and came back in 90 minutes and convicted our client. The jury struggled. They had to have struggled because 8 days is. I've never had a case that the jury's been out that long, and it was clear that they had questions, and I really wasn't able to properly defend my client. Mr. Williams did not get a fair trial. When I read this, I think there's like some kind of a defense mechanism when you try a case for 11 weeks that you start forgetting things. When I read this, it brought it all back, and it reminded me of really how unfair the judge was with Mr. Williams, and the detrimental effects that it had for me to be able to properly defend my client.
Well, listen, Mauricio, I appreciate you coming on here, pleading your case, pleading for
see what the comments say.
Excuse me,
we're gonna stay updated on this. I just had to see what they said. Wow, that was some stuff in there that I didn't even know happened. Drake been wanting to be a gangster and mob ties his whole career. I hope he gets the full experience. Drake suing UMG might be his big mistake. This went 0 to 100 real quick. Wild coincidence how this happened. Same week Drake files his legal action versus UMG. I was about to say UMG. Kendrick said he knows something about Drake that's gonna make Gunna look like a saint. Crazy part, this rumor has been in the street for years. Follow the money. Drake literally said something about shooting X in the song. I'm upset. Let the downfall of Drake begin. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Y'all cannot convince me that something isn't happening behind the scenes. Calls aren't being made. Money isn't getting passed around. I guess some who's in though. I definitely think there's some calls going around. Drake did sell X5. X was bitter. Yeah. But look, y'all, let me know what y'all think. Make sure y'all leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate y'all watching. Drop a follow to the Twitch. We're live right now. I'll be up a little bit later if you're watching this like early AM. So catch me later on today, Sunday. And then we'll be back until next time, y'all. We're outie.